Oh, and welcome back to the Illuminations Media Network. This is Tamara Westwood, your host, and I am absolutely thrilled to bring this show to you. You know, one of my favorite episodes is our Illuminary Spotlight. And today we're spotlighting a very special individual in the world. She is an ordinary woman, just like you and I. She has a family, she has children, she works, and she is on a mission. But she is doing extraordinary things in the world. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome on the show Dr. Dravon James. She's a motivational speaker, she's an everyday peacemaker, and she's the author of Freedom is Your Birthright. Welcome, Dravon.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm just so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. Like-minded woman, south side of Chicago. Home girl.
Absolutely. South side Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled. I just want so much for my listeners and my viewers to get to know you well, to get to see your vision. I know that everybody's right in alignment with it because those are the kinds of people that listen to the Illuminations Media Network.
Wonderful.
People who are woke and people who are ready for more information. So if you would please, since you're brand new to the family, just take a moment to share a little bit about yourself and what led you to this passion of writing this book, The Freedom is Your Birthright.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you. I'll be happy to share. So you said just about everything about me, but as you mentioned, I am the founder of an organization, Everyday Peace. We're our sole mission. We have no other purpose. Our sole mission is to teach people how to use everything. And I mean everything that shows up in their life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between, as a stepping stone on the pathway to achieving their life's dreams, living their dream life. I consider myself, as you mentioned, to be an everyday peacemaker, which means that I have the ability to create wholeness, completeness, totality, nothing missing, nothing broken, to create that in my life. And I believe that every other person is the same, an everyday peacemaker. That's a skill that can be taught. So we teach that. And in addition to that, I have just written my first book, the first book in a 5-book series called the Stepping Stone series. The first book, as you mentioned, is Freedom is Your Birthright. In addition to that, there's more. I am the mom of 2 amazing teenagers, amazing people. I am an actress, and I've been practicing pharmacy for, 28 years, and married for 23.
Oh, well, congratulations. You have created a beautiful life for yourself. You are spreading this out to everybody else on the planet, and we certainly can appreciate that here.
So I decided to write this book quite by accident, to be honest with you. I really was working on getting my vision out there, everyday peace, and I happened to be sharing it with some people, as I always am. But this was a very casual encounter, and just talking, and the person listening to me said, you know what, Dravon, you need to write a book. I said, there's so many books people don't really read, people are in instant information. And he insisted, he said, that you need to write a book. And so I did. I decided to write a book, and I thought, as I was thinking through my processes and my beliefs and what it is I know about the universe and how it works, I thought, we first have to accept some fundamental truths about ourselves. When we accept those truths, we can build from there. But if we try to build without having a good foundation, well, that doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And the truth is, we are free to do so many things that we take for granted and we let somebody else do for us. And we're free. And that is our birthright. So I started there, and I feel that that is a good foundation. This little tiny book, Freedom is Your Birthright, contains so much information. It's tiny on purpose because I really want people to get from the beginning to the end. Do the exercises, let it just wash all over you, become a part of you, use it as a reference, but get from the beginning to the end and watch the change that occurs in their life.
Well, Dravon, I have been privileged to read this book, and through technology on my my Mac computer, I've turned it into an audio book. and I
Wow.
listened to it, and it is awesome. It's not one of those books that certainly you can read it cover to cover, but you're not going to be done. It's a reference. It's a tiny reference guide. It's
Yeah.
it's it's like a little jewel that you can carry around your little pocket. It's amazing. But because there's just so much jam packed into that little book, there are a few things that I wanted to bring up, and maybe expound upon with our listeners and viewers. One of the main ones that really touched my heart is where you said to relinquish your right to be bitter.
Oh,
Oh, that's a deep one.
isn't that something? That is relinquishing your right to be bitter. First requires that we acknowledge that you do have a right. Something has occurred
Yeah,
and it's created a feeling in you, right? And
right.
that feeling is so important because it acts as a compass or a thermometer. It says, where we are right now is not in the best place for what we're trying to build. So something needs to be changed or we need to find a new place. So that's important for us to acknowledge it.
Yes, to acknowledge that pain is, like you said, it is like a compass. It's letting you know, it's an indication that something needs your attention because it's got you off track,
Right. And
right?
that's the only reason for us to have that emotion.
Right,
It is never intended for us to get stuck on it.
right.
It's to get our attention. It's like putting your hand on a hot stove. You don't put it there and let it linger.
No.
During the holiday time, I do a lot of cooking, and you'll accidentally grab a pot that you thought was cold on the stove and it's hot, and you move your hand away quickly.
Yes.
Pot got my attention, right? And so the emotion, the bitterness or whatever it is, the pain, the anguish, it got your attention. You are now aware. It's not meant for you to linger there.
Right. And
Because
that lingering part, Dravon, that's the part of it that is the suffering part. The pain is necessary, right?
yeah,
To get your attention, help you to wake up and see that something needs your attention. Something's happened. But that suffering and lingering and holding on to that pot.
right. And when we put it in the reference of thinking about a hot pot, they said, who does that? Who would keep their hand there? You know it's
Right.
hot. You know it's not a
Right.
good place to be. You know something needs to change. So let's go to work. Let's do the work.
But we do that with our emotions. And that is where I feel like I have the right to be mad. Somebody hurt me.
Oh,
I have the right. What is that? We all do it.
mm-hmm. We get stuck there in that pity, and there's a part of us that is comforted by the pity because we call it the self-soothing. But if we truly want to be creators and possess that freedom position, the CEO of our life, if you will, then we must say, thank you, you got my attention, and this is how I'm going to work through that to get to here. I'm going to use that as a stepping stone and not a stumbling block. We have to decide to relinquish the right to be bitter, decide to get better, learn something new about yourself, a new approach. If nothing else, learn that whatever just happened is unacceptable in your life.
Right. Right.
If you can't learn anything, it's unacceptable. Okay, I got it.
Mm-hmm. So we can create boundaries, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Communicate that, appropriately and move on. If you can't do anything else, but lingering, you've got to relinquish that and decide I'm going to get better. Whatever this event is, it's going to be a stepping stone, not a stumbling block.
Right. And that's a choice, as you speak to throughout your book, that it's all a choice, that divine right that we have, that divine birthright, gives us the option to choose how we respond to whatever life throws at us.
Absolutely. Our whole existence is based on us choosing and naming it for ourselves. And I love, if you follow any, universal truth, the Bible is one source of universal truth. And I love when, God tells Adam to name every creation. You just name it. Whatever you call it, that's what it is. So you could say, this is the event to ruin my life. And so it is.
You could choose, yeah.
Or you could say, this is the pivotal point right here where my life is going to turn around and I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
And so it is. Same event, you name it, what it's going to be. You give it its power.
You
You are
do.
a creator.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Yes, that naming. I get to name it and I
Yeah.
get to claim,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yes.
And then you talk about leaning into the conflict. We
Oh.
have a tendency to want to back up and we're
Mhm.
afraid of it. I don't want to deal with conflict, but you're talking about leaning on into it.
Yeah, and and I was that sister. I would avoid conflict in my life if I had to circle the world 300 times to prevent getting engaged in something that I felt was negative. I would do that. And
Me too. Me too. I was afraid of being a bitch. Because the worst thing in the world is to be a black bitch, right?
oh my goodness, yeah, we it's so right. We do it so well, even when we're silent, apparently, right?
Right?
So to use your voice and to speak up for yourself, how dare you? Because you don't want to be creating a conflict. So it took me a long time to understand the value, not only to myself, but to the other people in my life of leaning into conflict
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and deciding that here we are. And we may have a difference of opinion. We may be pulling in we want two different results, but I am not necessarily going to give in or without voicing my feelings and my truth and my needs, because that's not good for either one of us. You see, a lot of times in a conflict situation, we're always concerned with remaining the same. And that's why we don't lean in all because we don't want that change. We
That's
are
right.
so rigid against change. We want it to remain the same. And so if we can avoid the conflict, then we don't have to change. But
Even if it's horrific, right?
yes,
If it's
yes,
comfortable, then we want to hold on for dear life.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we want to remain there, but we can't. Life is evolving. Everything is evolving, and we have to evolve with it.
It's impossible to stay the same. What
Oh,
about perfectionism? Perfectionism is a huge roadblock. We talked about trying to avoid being, a biatch, if you will.
right.
Um, we cannot be wrong. We cannot make a mistake. That's harmful.
Yeah, how much pressure. Perfection is the pursuit of the unattainable goal, right?
Oh, yes.
And so when we embrace life like that, when we say, you know what, I'm setting on this course to do my absolute best, knowing that perfection is the pursuit of the unattainable goal, a worthy pursuit, but it is unattainable. It takes all that pressure off of you. You see, the only thing required here is that I stay in the moment and I give the best of me.
Being the
That's
best. Yeah.
what,
And that
and
best may vary moment to moment, right?
absolutely. What was 100% yesterday? Today's conditions are changed. And somebody may look at you and say, you're only giving 50%. They can't see you from the inside out. You say, no, this is 110.
That's right. That's right.
It changes, and we have to be flexible. It's
Yes.
so important to be flexible with ourselves and with others. And say, this is where I am today. This is what I need today. This is what I can give today.
Mhm.
When we become honest like that, and I find so often we as women are not in that honest space, because so much is on our shoulders, and we're in a giving position, over giving, and we are not honest with, today my 100% involves just making it downstairs to make a cup of tea and back upstairs. That's 100% for me today.
And Dravon, you speak to honesty, being authentic, being for real. I was one of those persons who, of course, I didn't want to be a black bitch, right? Number one. I didn't want conflict, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't always speak my truth about my needs. And what I found was that even though I thought I was being authentic and I was being kind and I was being nice, right? People didn't trust me because they could feel that inauthenticity in back of all this niceness. Isn't
Mhm.
that interesting?
It is so interesting. So it's counterproductive. And it takes a lifetime for many of us to realize that, why don't we have the external relationships that we're working so hard for? My goodness, we've done all the things. We've got the right personality. We've got the smile. We've got the right words, And why isn't it turning around for us? Why aren't we bringing that into our space? And you're absolutely right. It's not authentic. And we're not letting people know truly how to love and care for us because we're so concerned with how we appear to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we can gloss it up. I used to say for years that I really was doing that for the other person because I
Yes.
really didn't want to hurt them. But when I really, really started to do a lot of self-introspection, I said, what really is going on here is that I don't want to be judged as a mean person or an unkind person. And as I matured and studied more, I said, well, some days it just is what it is. This is what, and some people may misinterpret today's behavior as being this is who I am. But dealing with a situation honestly is necessary so that we can have a good relationship.
That's
So that
right.
you can know what my boundaries are, so I can know what your boundaries are, so we can deal together in truth. And we only get there. We only get there when we first decide to deal with ourselves in truth, to see ourselves eyes wide open.
Right. And, in your book, you speak to that ability to allow your partner to grow and knowing that you are also growing, that you two are not the same people that you were when you first got together. You're going to grow and change, and being open to and allowing for that without fear.
Oh, fear is a crippling emotion, isn't it? It is a
Yes.
crippling emotion. It requires that we act and perceive the world irrationally.
Yes.
It is not rational that people who have been together for 2 months, 2 years, 20 years would be the same people that they were. If they were, one of them wouldn't be necessary. And we have
So
to,
true. That
but
is so true.
yeah, we want to hold everything the same, but we're changing, and that's okay. And I was on a program maybe a week ago, and a caller called in and talked about, wanting her significant other to do all kinds of things with her shopping and all that. I said, a lot of times we confuse a significant other with a girlfriend, right?
Yes.
Their needs are different. Our relationship needs are different and they are evolving, which causes us to grow and develop, but we're not no one's becoming our whole center of our universe. And we
Can't.
should not become the whole center of somebody else's universe.
That's unhealthy and it's unnatural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unhealthy and unnatural. That love, that type of attention we need to put on ourselves.
Hmm.
Put that on ourselves. It would be so well served if we put that type of attention internally. And say, let me get to know myself on that level. Let me do for myself the things that I wish someone else was doing for me.
Yes.
Really see how it feels.
And with that, then you begin to teach others how to treat you according
Oh,
to how you're treating yourself. You know that golden rule? Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. I always say, do unto yourself as you want others to do unto you as well. That's a huge one.
yes, and it's with every relationship. Years ago, I watched Maya Angelou on an interview, and she said, and I didn't even have children. My oldest is 18, so it was many years ago. She said something to the effect that mothers have to teach their children how to love them.
Mm.
And not only is it true for a mother-child relationship, it's true for every relationship. We have to show by example how to love me by showing you how I love me. How do I
Right.
treat myself? Well, if you're
Right.
hard on yourself, if you don't respect your body, respect your time, then you can't expect other people to respect you more than what you respect you.
So true.
We really, or to get to know you. This is a big one. Love is about someone sharing your space and getting to know you. Now, how is that possible when you haven't spent time getting to know you? You don't know what your triggers are. You don't know what motivates you, what puts you in a place of wanting and needing. You don't know that about yourself,
Mhm.
but you want somebody else to invest the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing that you do you know, in your everyday peace practice is that
Yes.
you help people to get connected with self, become
Yes.
aware of what your needs are, what are your values, you know?
Mhm. Without any shame,
Hmm.
blame, or condemnation. Because quite honestly, many people close their eyes to themselves. I used to say, my sister and I used to say, people squint when they look at themselves because they don't want to see their flaws and the things they
Woo!
don't want other people to see. And
That's a
so,
big one.
yeah, so it's big, it's important when we're getting to know ourselves that we say, this is a safe place.
Yes.
Anything I get to know about you today, I'm still going to love you no matter what. This is not a place of judgment. And this is self-talk so that we can really get in there and put the light on everything. No little dark crevices and corners left behind. Put the light on everything because truly everything that's inside of us developed out of a need some kind of way.
Oh,
We
yes.
cultivate it fully because
Yes.
if we had cultivated it fully, it would be serving us in a positive way. But if we let it sit in the dark in the dusty corner of our mind or our soul, then it festers in the wrong way. It becomes like a weed and it's choking out all the other stuff. So we
That's
really,
right.
really have to spend that time of getting to know each other ourselves without any blame or shame.
Yes. And it tends to rear its head when you don't want it to because you've suppressed it and repressed it. And it's like, wait a minute, I have something to say. And it's going to jump on out when you don't want it to.
That's right. It's going to slip out. That closet door is going to come open, and you, oh my goodness! And then we go into this, self condemnation. We can't believe that we did that. And
Yes.
but if we deal with it without any shame. Know what the triggers are. Know what's there. I often relate our relationship with ourselves. I said we have to be with ourselves like we would be with a middle schooler. They're middle schoolers to me. When you're in middle school, having had children, my own and my nieces and stuff go through middle school, it is the hardest part of school because so much is happening. And when those little kids come home at the end of the day full of all that rage or happiness, whatever it is, and they sit and talk, you never sit there and judge them. You just sit there and listen to them from a place of wisdom, knowing that this too will pass.
Yes.
It's okay to communicate it with me. Let me rub you on your back. Let me get you something cold to drink. If we treat ourselves that way, when we get in that space and say, it's okay. It's okay. Why don't
Yes.
we get all that out?
And Dravon, one thing about that, you brought up, the trials and the tribulations, the difficulties that young people are having because there's no life experience. And we think about a lot of these negative aspects, about ourselves that are hidden and that we don't want to see. A lot of them were created, yes, out of unmet needs, but they were created out of decisions that were made from a 5-year-old mind that didn't
Yes.
have any experience, and they're still running us in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You are so absolutely true. And how do you rid yourself of that? It is easier than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Don't browbeat yourself. You go back and you thank your 5-year-old self for being intelligent enough to come up with that solution at 5 years old. But
Yeah.
now you're 55 and that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right?
fit anymore. Yeah.
But you have to say, first, I really applaud you. Boy, that was something. And look, that got us from there to here. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to thank you for your service. I no longer need that response. I've
Right.
got so many other tools in this arsenal, in this tool chest that I can use. I no longer need to use that one.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to get in that place of self-awareness and self-love and self-talk so that we can say, I made that decision. Look, when I started doing that, when I started ranting and raving or getting into this negative space, I don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
I got a lot more life experience and I got a lot more tools at my disposal.
That's right. Well, in your book, you speak about a relative of yours that you named Stephen in the book, who had been incarcerated, and you talk about the beauty of his evolution, how he woke up during that process. Can you share that with our listeners and viewers?
Truly, freedom starts to happen for us when we really start to look at our life and view ourselves as a power player in our own life. And this particular relative of mine had been imprisoned for a number of years. In fact, this was his second sentencing. He had already served 10 years of his life in prison, and he was back in prison. And he was the type of person, lovely person, wonderful person. But he blamed all of his decisions on external conditions. And at this point, we had been going back and forth, and we had lost contact, and now we had gotten back in contact, and he was sharing some just really heart-wrenching stories about prison life. Through this course of talking over several months, maybe even a year, one day we were on the phone, and he started telling me about something that happened in the prison, and it was just really gruesome. And at the end of the tale, he said to me, I was really saddened because as I watched another man dying, I realized that his choices led him here. Well, I'd never heard him speak of choice in his person. And he started talking about his personal choices, and it was the beginning of a turning around for him.
Wow.
For him seeing himself, the freedom that he had. Yes, things happen. Rain falls on the just and the unjust.
Yes.
How we choose to react. Our choices, we are free. And I'm proud to say today that he is gainfully employed in society, but it was that recognition of his power in his life, his ability to take responsibility for his choices, accepting his freedom, and then taking responsibility. So very important, because if we live life as a victim,
right,
we are powerless to create change.
Very, very true.
Right. And once he took himself out of the victim and said, you know what? No, I'm going to make a choice here. And the situation didn't change overnight. It was, step by step how life happens. It unfolds, one day at a time. But that was the first step for him. And he's doing so well today. He is a testament. His life spoke to me, and his choices spoke to me.
Beautiful. And you speak about this idea of the word. And we know scripturally the word, the word becomes flesh, it manifests in our lives. And so when we decide to step out of victimhood and we move into this purposeful warrior of life, this one who is in charge, because I'm a victor, I get to choose what I do, how I respond, how I react, but it takes time. And that language has to change. You speak to the social awkwardness that happens when you make the decision that I'm no longer going to engage in negative complaining and other types of conversations. Yes. Please speak to that awkward moment, because we've all been there.
I can speak to it personally. When I made this decision years ago that I was no longer going to engage in that, I was at a loss. I'd get in functions, or I get to work or around people, and I didn't know what to talk about. And I realized when I was going through this process that everything in my world, and probably in everybody's world, reinforced negative conversation. And from the beginning, when you wake up in the morning, your alarm clock goes off, and you may wake up to the traffic report, which tells you that it's a horrible day. Traffic is backed up on 95. You're going to be 3 hours delayed, and you get in the car, talks about a number of murders that happened last night, and the Dow Jones is doing this. So it's over and over. So when you make the decision that you yourself, myself, made the decision that if it wasn't something that I wanted in my life to show up in my life, I wasn't going to talk about it. And I would get places and I didn't have a word to say. And I was like, because I was new at it and I didn't know what to say.
Right.
And eventually I would say stuff like, well, and everything started off with, well, and I'd turn it around. And I felt people would like, oh, here comes, Polly Purebred. Here she's
right.
But eventually I'll tell you what happened. And it still happens today. People started changing the way that they saw things. Same things happening. Same pile up on 95. But guess what this pile up means? Maybe it prevented me from getting involved in some accident. This slowed me down. True. I had an opportunity to catch my breath before I got home and took my challenging day out on my family. So we started having conversations like this, because in my presence, the energy had changed. I changed it purposefully.
Yes.
I changed it. And I decided to go through that awkwardness where I really didn't know what to say. And then I started just removing myself from conversation, but I'm a people person, so I wanted to talk.
Right.
So I get back in. I said, I'd start off with, well, and then I just would talk about, my beliefs. I would say, well, what if we looked at it this way? Have you ever thought about that?
Mm.
And people just started to change the way they perceive things in my area. And I feel like in my small corner of the world, it makes a difference. And
It does, Dravon.
yeah.
It makes
So when people speak to me now and they do that, it reminds me whenever I start to get in that space, because we all do that, we go conscious and unconscious all day long.
Yes, we
So
do.
when I get into unconsciousness and I start slipping, someone will say, well, Dravon, remember? And I said, oh, yes. Thank you so much for bringing me back.
And you know what I noticed, Dravon, when I shifted from that, wanting to be the life of the party and saying something negative because it seemed, that it gave me all this attention. And I started moving away from it. And like you said, turning it around, finding the positive in what seemed to be negative, you start to develop a tribe around you.
Yeah.
You start to attract people who are of like mind, who, like you said, we begin to support one another, building one another up when we need to be reawakened, in that moment. You talk about a girlfriend who whenever you were, in a place, a low place, she would talk about how she wanted you to just keep on going so that you would, on the other side, come out shining.
Like new money.
I
gotta tell you,
new money.
Every time I hear that phrase, it makes me smile. But I can tell you when she would tell me, and I'm a person we talked about earlier, not liking conflict. And I spent most of my youth, a young adult life, praying that God would let me learn all my lessons without me having to make any mistakes.
Ooh.
I tried to be that good girl and not
right.
make things, and so when I came up against something, and I, frequently did, who doesn't? And I would share it with this friend, and she would say, I said, I'm going through this. And she said, well, keep on going. Because when you come through, you're going to shine like new money.
I love it.
So I say to her all the time, it makes me happy and sad to hear you say that, because sad is the recognition that I am going through something. But I was so happy that you believed, that I was going to shine like new money. But I came through it. And that made all the difference for me. All of the difference. And that's with everything. We can't turn back. We can't insist that we don't change, because we are changing. And we are where we are. What's happening is happening. We're not going to put our heads in the sand like an ostrich and pretend like it's not happening. That's not positive thinking. That's not moving forward. That's just craziness. We have to acknowledge and say, you know what? I'm going to use this event right here as a stepping stone. It will not be a stumbling block. I reject that.
You get to choose. And in your book, you talk about that. You talk about finding the opportunities in the problem, because they're there. They're always there.
Always. Always there. And this is a true story. And we talk about conflict. So, I still work full-time job. I was at work today. I manage a moderate team, a little under 30 people, and had one of the staff members extremely angry and aggressive today. And, 20 years ago, I would have been in my office with the door locked, waiting, but it was
hiding,
right, and praying, let it stop, but it was an opportunity for me to learn something about that staff member's personality, what their triggers were, and to really hone in on conflict management. And I saw it as such. I didn't get in a personal space where, oh my goodness, this is an attack against me, or this is rebellious. No, this is a great learning opportunity. And when we realize that life is a classroom.
Isn't it though?
One big, gigantic, free university, right? You get your PhD in so many things simultaneously, right? And so when we approach it that way, it seems different. It's more of a game, isn't it? Than it is a hardship.
Yes.
It's more of a game. You're like, oh, okay.
And you can look forward to shining like new money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, you speak about life being a school. and getting that PhD, I look back on, I'm a retired teacher. I worked with very small children, 3 to 5 year old in Los Angeles, first five. And I had one student who was a troublemaker, if you will. He was bigger than the rest of the kids. He was the class clown. He was making all kinds of noise and interrupting. And I found out that there was an unmet need, as we spoke about earlier. There was an unmet need going on with this behavior. This child was not getting enough attention at home, and he wanted some responsibility, right? He wanted to be the big guy.
Yes.
So I made him the line leader. I gave him responsibility to be my teacher's assistant. And all those behaviors vanished because I found the opportunity in that, and I'm hoping, that this, oh my goodness, this was, at least 15 years ago. I'm hoping that other teachers have also seen that in him and gave him responsibility. But, it's always there.
It's always there. And perhaps, and I always say this, perhaps that was his sole purpose there.
For being in the class.
But what was for you to show him that there is leadership in you. You are valuable. Mm-hmm. You are valuable. Because when those undesirable behaviors or traits show up in our day, they show up in each and every one of us, it is a cry for something. Some need needs to be met.
Yes.
And as we mature, well, we can see it in ourselves first. I can quickly say to myself, oh, there's a dip in your mood, Dravon. What's going on? And I take a few minutes and do a self-assessment and say, what's going on? What happened? Mm-hmm. And then you realize, oh, an old memory surfaced. Okay. We're not in that place anymore. We're safe. Mm-hmm. And so when we can do that for ourselves, and until we can do that for ourselves, hopefully there are people like you who can say, I see a need. Let me slow this down and get to know you a little better. Mm-hmm. So that at least in my presence, I can help serve that need to enlighten you so you can self-serve.
Right. So that he could see himself as productive rather than that bad kid. That's that bad boy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he can take on a persona and say, you know what, I am so valuable. And realize that position as line leader fed that part of him that was lacking.
That's right.
The way that the misbehavior was feeding it. So he says, oh, I like this better.
Right, this is better.
And he can go on and become a CEO of some kind of business, put himself in a leadership position. Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Right. I always say from gang leader to CEO, same personality.
It's the same thing.
You want to be in charge. Let's put the word behind it.
And even the gang, came about because of an unmet need of super intelligent, usually young men, but sometimes it's girls who need an outlet for this intelligence.
Yes.
And that's all that it is. A lot of it has come up because, societal issues where there's no funding for this. But for my thing is, that's where parents need to take the choice to recognize that, hey, we can create our own after school program. Because, remember down south, they used to have Saturday school.
Oh my
where
goodness.
People would open up their homes and all the kids would go to learn whatever the trade was or whatever the person had to offer.
You went to learn how to fold tea napkins, or you went
whatever it was.
I remember that. You went to learn etiquette, you went to learn something on Saturday. Black history, you went somewhere to learn something.
Yes.
So we can do that today, but all of these things from within, we create first an internal world that outpictures as our external world. And when we accept that we are free to recreate any type of internal world that we want. And that will outpicture. If you don't like what you're seeing, go inside, change that. And what's outside will organically change.
It is so very true. In my practice of Beyond Hypnosis, clients come and they're perplexed as to, what's going on in my life. Things aren't right. I just have this feeling, this is what I don't want, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we need to take some time to look at your life because your life is telling you everything that you need to know. Mm-hmm. What are those patterns? Oh. What is outpicturing, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is in your external environment.
Right
It's
there.
telling you exactly, it's an accurate depiction of what's going on inside.
Mhm.
If you just take a moment, walk in nature and just listen, watch your thoughts as they float like clouds across your mind. Watch the ones that are there. Just watch them.
That's
You'll
right.
figure out, it'll be revealed to you. It's trying to show you what's there, what needs attention.
That's right.
And only you can give it that attention. You can surround yourself with the most loving people until yourself is craving attention from you.
Yes.
And until you pay it that attention, nothing significantly significant is going to change that is sustainable in your external world. It's not.
Mm.
It's going to be a hardship and a struggle to create everything. And then it's just going to poof because it's really waiting for you inside to change, to
Yeah.
create lasting change externally.
Yes, that pain that's going on, that's really your best friend. You know,
Oh,
as we opened up the show, we were talking about that pain is an indicator. It's something that's letting you know, hey, something to look at here.
yes.
Yeah,
Isn't it a beautiful thing? I
it
tell
really
people,
is.
I
It,
work in healthcare, and people, I talk about, lecture about healthcare issues. I said, a fever is such a beautiful thing because a fever tells you, hey, your body is trying to ward off something.
yeah,
Without these indications, my goodness, you die of this simple infection.
that's
That
right.
fever tells you that something, let's get some blood work done. Is your
Mhm.
body's indicating, you know what? We need some help here. It's the same thing with pain, anguish, these things,
Yes.
something, nervous energy, something.
Something.
Something's going on. Let's take a
Mhm.
moment and see where that's coming from.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have all the answers. I find people are afraid to sit quietly because they think they got to come up with answers. You just got to sit. The answer's in there too.
Yeah, they will come.
Rise to the top.
Yeah, they will come.
Yeah.
Well, Dravon, freedom is definitely all of our birthright. And
Oh,
and this particular book here is the stepping stone.
yeah.
What's next?
The next book is Forgiveness. This book talks a little bit about forgiveness and it touches on the subject, but I really want people to understand how easy it is to use the power of forgiveness to
Mhm.
manifest whatever they're looking for in life. That
Yes.
power it is so powerful and it is so often.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you, Dravon? I know that Dravon is having weather issues in her area. She's on the East Coast. She did let me know that there's been some rain and some flooding. So we might have lost her here. Um, but no worries. Let's see if she comes back in for a moment. We'll just kind of hang out for a moment and see what happens. But we were just about concluding our show, letting you know about her next book, which is all about forgiveness. But I would just love for you to go over to Dravon's website. It is Dr. Dravon, Dravon, James.com. And that's where you can get a hold of her books. You can learn about her everyday peacemaker workshops and trainings and just get to know her a little bit better. And no worries, she will be back on the Illuminations Media Network. As you can see, she's just a beautiful spirit, and she's right here with her eyes wide open, trying to support everybody to have a life and a world that works for everyone. And as you know, that is our mission here at Illuminations Media Network. So it looks like Dravon is having a little bit of trouble. So we'll go ahead and close out. And I just wish everyone to wake on up to who you are. You are a powerful being, and you do have that power of choice right there within you. You can choose when it's time to make a change in your life. You can communicate to the loved ones around you if things aren't working out with your relationships. But the first thing that you must do is communicate with yourself, which is what we've been talking about mostly in this particular show, to get to know self. And you can also reach out to me at beyondhypnosis.com. Oh, there we are. Hi, you're back. I was just closing out. I didn't know if you were going to make it back, but we were hopeful. But To close
Sorry,
out
all kinds of melt. We had a storm. I unplugged my computer to deal with electrical stuff. And
yeah. Well, Dravon, what I was inviting the audience to do, I did give them your website, the dravonjames.com. That's where they can get a hold to you. They can get a hold to your books there. Anything else you want to share with our listeners and viewers on how they can reach out to you and connect with you?
well, as you said, my website is the best way, dravonjames.com. The book is also available at amazon.com there. And I would like to just let our viewers know that right now, today, they have everything that they need to start on the pathway of living a life of peace every day. And if I didn't say clearly, I want to say very, very clearly that the definition of peace, as I use it in my writing, is wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken, totality. It is the life that each and every one of us deserves and is available for us. Start today. Freedom is your birthright. You can start right now.
Right here and right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So as I close out, as you know, you've been listening to the Illuminations Media Network, and I'm so grateful to have so many luminaries like you. Can I reach out and hug? We can do a digital hug. But I'm just so grateful to have this platform to bring people like this and to share. And let's just build a tribe on the planet that will just grow and encompass and create a world that works for everybody knowing that they have choice, that they are not victims, that they are not limited and beholden to anybody else. And you can use that powerful mind of yours to change the world right here, right now, tomorrow, the next day. Peace and blessings. I'm signing out. Tamara Westwood, your host. Until next time.